In this video, I'd like to show you how to first input and plot data using the TI-84 calculator, and then to perform a linear regression on that data. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my calculator, and the first thing that I see is a bunch of junky stuff that I had entered for a previous data set, and so I have junk in list 1 and list 2. And so the first thing I really need to do is clear that out. And the way I'm going to do that, so I'm going to go to the Stat menu. And you can see we have several options here, and one of those is Clear List number 4. So I can either enter the number 4 or use the arrow to go there. And I've got Clear List, so that's the action that it's going to do. So the next thing I need to do is tell it which list I'm going to clear. And the way I do that, you can see here there's a very small blue word list, and I want to get to that, so I'm going to use the function key and then stat, which again now will give me the lists. And it has the names of the list, so I'm going to say list 1, so let's enter the number 1, and so it'll ask it to clear list 1, and I'm going to push enter, and so now that's done. And let's do it again. So again, from the stat menu, I have the option to clear the list, and this time I want to clear list 2, so I look again under here. It's in the stat button, but the second function, so I click that, and this time I'm going to use my arrow key to get down to list 2, either use the arrow or type the number. And then when I enter that, I've selected list 2, and so when I enter again, now that list is cleared. So now when we hit the stat key and go to edit, so that's option 1, we should see clean lists that are ready to have data entered. So I'm going to take this data from my table, so this is college tuition costs for 4 different years, and this is essentially 4 different data points, and I'm going to let year be the first column, which will be my X values, and let Y be the second column, which is the cost. So for the year 1995, I'll enter that. And then I'm going to go to the next item, which puts me down in list 1, so I have the year 2000. And then I'll enter the year 2005, and finally the year 2010. So that's my list of X values, and now I'm going to use the arrow key to get over to the Y column, and my Y values are 12.4. and that's in thousands, so that means basically $12,400, but we'll enter that number, and then we have 16.5, and we enter that, 21.2 for the next number, and finally 26.3. Now that we've got the data entered, the next thing we need to do is to create the window, that is the maximum and minimum values that we want to show graphed. So we're going to go to the window button here, and from our previous problem we started at the year 2002, but this time I think I want to start at the year let's make it 1994. And I want to go down to the year just past 2010, so I'm going to make it 2012. And the Y scale, or on the X scale, I'm going to go in increments of every 2 years, which means there's going to be a hatch mark every 2 years. Next, I'm going to go for the Y minimum. The minimum, I will let it start at 0, and we'll probably be going up to about 30 here. So let's go up to a value. Again, go down here to the Y maximum, which we'll let to be 30, and the Y scale, let's make this increments of 5 units at a time. And the resolution will be 1. So now we've got the data entered. We have the window, which is the span in the X direction, the span in the Y direction, and we just can go ahead and graph it. So we have these data points, and it looks like the points lie on a line, but what is the best fit line? And that's what we're going to find when we perform a linear regression. So this time we'll perform a statistical calculation. So we're going to go to the Stat button, and we're going to calculate something. So we're going to move it over here. And you can see under Calculations, we have a lot of different options, but number 4, linear regression, AX plus B, that's what we want. So we will select that. And it has automatically populated for the X values, it's using list 1. For the Y values, it's using list 2. And we don't have to worry about the other values, but we can just go ahead and hit calculate. So let's move ourselves down to this option. And now we're going to ask it to calculate. And what it gives us is the values that give us our regression line. So this is a linear equation, y equals ax plus b, where a is the slope. And in this case, the slope is 0.928, and the y-intercept is negative 1,839.22. The one thing that's missing from this information is the R value, the correlation coefficient. And some calculators are set up to show this by default, but this one has not been, so I want to show you how we can set that up. So we're going to go to the catalog, which is here in the blue. So we're going to use the second function to get to the catalog, and this shows us an enormous number of functions. And what we want to do is turn on the diagnostic here. So we have to just keep on clicking down until we get to B, C, D for the diagnostics. And let's see, we're getting closer. Okay, so here we go. And we want to have diagnostic on, so I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to now say, yes, I do want diagnostic on, so I'll hit enter again, and it's done. So now if I go back and do that same calculation, statistical calculation and calc, and the option for linear regression number 4, and when we this time ask it to calculate, it shows us the R values, R squared and R. And you can see this R of 0.9988 is a very, very close number to 1, which means that our data points are very, very close to the actual line. So now that we've calculated the regression line, what we want to do is plot both the data points and the regression line on the same graph and see how they compare. So we had previously entered those 4 data points, and now what we can do is make a scatter diagram. So let's go to stat plot here, which is in the blue, so we use the second function. And you can see here plot number 1 is on, so we will use that plot. And let's enter. And now you can see the different type scatter diagram, line graph, and so on. So since it is on, and it's on scatter diagram, we will select that. And then we can just hit graph, and you can see the 4 points again. So now what we want to do is to superimpose the regression line on those data points. And the way that we'll do that is by entering the function. So we see here y equals, so we'll hit that. And remember that our regression line had the format y is equal to ax plus b. So in this y1 space, I'm going to type the value for a, which was 0.928. And I could hit the multiply button, but I don't need to. I've got the variables here, at, theta, and n, and so when I hit that button, the value x, or the variable x, will appear, and it's assumed that that's going to be multiplied. Next, I have the y-intercept. I have this subtracted 1,839.22. So this is my equation that I've entered. And now when I go ahead to graph this, let's see what happens. So you can see the regression line along with the individual data points. And even though these data points do follow the line very closely, they don't necessarily have to lie on the line. It just happens in this case that the points are so close to being the exact values of a linear equation that they fall this way.